We're back with more on same-sex marriage with Dan Balz of the Washington Post and our chief legal correspondent, Jan Crawford. Jan, I want to start with you and the question I asked David Boies. This is a big leap for the Supreme Court when it finally gets there, isn't it?
Well, I mean, David Boies said it was not, but clearly it is. I mean, they are asking the Supreme Court to set aside essentially the laws of 44 states. So that is an enormous stretch. Now, of course, the Supreme Court has taken up issues of gay rights in the past. Justice Kennedy, the key swing vote in 2003, said that states could not criminalize homosexual sex in the privacy of your bedroom. But that is an entirely different matter than saying there's a federal constitutional right to same-sex marriage.
In this case, Judge Walker quoted Anthony Kennedy 15 times or so. It was a letter to him, wasn't it? And is that going to work, writing directly to Kennedy, basically trying to use his own words to say, hey, you got to vote with me?
No, I mean, clearly this decision was written with an eye on appeal, and it's going to be appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. The court is so narrowly divided right now on these key social issues. You know, you've got your 4 liberals, your 4 conservatives, and then that man in the middle, Anthony Kennedy, who's kind of like this, you know, human jump ball. And what they are asking Justice Kennedy to do in this case is not only, I mean, he's got to grab the ball, take it down the court, slam it in the basket, and shatter the backboard. I mean, this is something that Anthony Kennedy doesn't do. He's a very cautious justice. He doesn't like to get out ahead. Like I said, the same-sex ruling that he wrote in 2003, that struck down laws that criminalized homosexual sex. No one was enforcing these laws. This would change the law of the nation. They would be so far out ahead of public opinion, and that is why this case was controversial from the beginning. Remember, the traditional gay rights groups did not want David Boies and his conservative counterpart Ted Olson to file this case because they think the Supreme Court is not ready. They wanted to see more states pass laws allowing same-sex marriage and then take it to the court and not put that onus and that pressure on the Supreme Court. And I would not be so confident if I were David Boies.
Dan, let's talk about the politics of this. It does seem like from the Republican side, you know, George Bush, when a Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage, immediately he came out with a constitutional amendment to ban it. This time, pretty quiet from Republicans.
Yes, and I think that there's a good reason for that. In 2004, the Republicans needed to do everything they could to motivate their base. Their base this year is highly motivated. They don't need to do more to crank up the anger or the energy that's there on the right. The second, I think, and more important reason is they have very good issues to deal with in this midterm. The economy, the size and scope of government, debt and deficit. Those are issues that unify their entire coalition and also reach out to independents. To introduce in a significant and loud way same-sex marriage would threaten to pull away from that, pull that coalition apart.
Distract. Okay, if it's going to keep the Republicans quiet on this issue, what about the Democrats? How do they handle this?
Well, the Democrats are equally conflicted or quiet on this because while much of the Democratic base favors same-sex marriage, the truth is most elected officials, including President Obama, are opposed to it. And so there is conflict within their base. They don't want to really get into this at this point and stir things up. The president has stayed away from this issue for the most part, as have most other Democrats. So I don't think you're going to see Democrats try to leap to make this into an issue in the fall, even in some districts. I think where this will play is in some conservative districts, in some red states. Individual Republicans will use it, particularly through micro-targeting. They will reach to voters, not with broad messaging, but by direct mail or phone calls, things like that.
Keep in mind, though, too, I mean, this is the first ruling by one federal judge, and it's going to be appealed. This case is going to get to the Supreme Court pretty close to 2012. So, you know, whether or not it's an issue in this year's midterm or not, it's going to be an issue in the presidential election. And President Obama is going to have to, I mean, what does he do?
And I think, as you said, the question is, public opinion is changing on this, and fairly dramatically over the last 4 or 5 years. But it's not at the point where there's majority opinion in a majority of states in favor of same-sex marriage. The court may end up ruling on this long before public opinion reaches to the conclusion a majority favor same-sex marriage.
Jan, I want to ask you about another legal issue. The same-sex case is about the 14th Amendment. There's also been some Republicans talking about the 14th Amendment in another context in terms of this automatic birthright citizenship in the United States. What's happening on that front?
Well, I had about an hour-long talk about this actually on Friday with Senator Lindsey Graham, and this is really kind of one component of what he sees and is pushing is some broader immigration reform. And he believes that it is a real problem that people are coming to this country illegally, having babies, and then they're automatically U.S. citizens. And then they kind of piggyback, the parents can piggyback on those kids to stay here in this country illegally. He has all these figures. There's been a 53% increase in births to foreign people who've come here to have their babies in the last 4 years alone. So this is a way he wants to look at the 14th Amendment and say, maybe it's time for us to rethink that. Remember, the 14th Amendment, which is sacrosanct, I think, to so many people, was passed to give citizenship rights to the freed slaves, because obviously the southern states weren't really going to be doing that unless the federal government stepped in. So he's saying it's time to rethink this when we're really looking at immigration reform as part of a broader package, securing the borders, giving a path to citizenship for the 12 million people who are here illegally now, having some kind of worker ID card, and then also stopping this practice where people can come here illegally or not, have children here, and those children be U.S. citizens.
Dan, this is an issue Republicans want to talk about as opposed to the same-sex marriage.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what you're seeing is that almost all of the elements of the immigration debate that are being discussed now, public opinion tends to be on the side of where the Republicans stand. The Arizona immigration law. There are a lot of Democrats, particularly in the West, who were very unhappy that the Justice Department and the President decided to step in on that case, feeling that this was a moment that they didn't want to get into an issue like that the administration needed to stay focused on the economy. The 14th Amendment issue is another one. I mean, we are a long way away from any serious legislating on immigration reform. It died this year. It may come back next year, but we're a long way away from that. Nonetheless, this discussion is lively right now, and it is helping the Republicans.
Okay, Dan Balz, thanks so much. We're going to have to go, Jan. Thanks.